Chosen one, why have you felt like a stranger in your own family for 70 years? Why do people either instantly love you or inexplicably fear you with no middle ground? Why does your presence make rooms go silent, not because you're intimidating, but because something ancient recognizes something eternal? Beloved, chosen one, do you realize that a devil has fallen in love with you? Not because you are like them, but because you are everything they can never be. Nobody has ever handled them like you have. This message isn't random. It's not just a story. It's about you, the one watching right now, wondering why life has been so hard, why you've felt different since childhood, why spiritual battles follow you like shadows but never quite consume you. Listen carefully. I need to tell you something that's going to shatter everything you thought you knew about your struggles. That depression that visits you at 3 a.m., those financial attacks that come in waves, those relationships that crumble just when you open your heart, none of it was random. Hell saw what heaven placed inside you and panicked. You see, most people think spiritual warfare looks like movie scenes, dramatic confrontations with obvious evil. But the real battle? It's been happening in your living room, your doctor's office, your sleepless nights. The enemy doesn't attack nobodies. They don't waste ammunition on ordinary souls. You've been targeted because you carry something they desperately fear. The ability to remain unshaken in the presence of pure darkness. Like a lamp in a pitch-black room that makes every shadow tremble, your very existence unsettles principalities and powers that have ruled unopposed for millennia. Before we go deeper into this mystery, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. But right now, if your spirit recognizes itself in these words, if something deep inside you just stirred awake for the first time in years, I need you to do something. Type 77 inches, the comments right now. That number represents divine insight. It means you see what others cannot. It's your declaration that you're ready to understand why you've been so different. Stay with me, because before this hour is over, you will understand why hell itself couldn't handle you and why heaven trusted only you with this assignment. How many times have you been told you were too sensitive, too different, too much? How many decades have you carried the weight of being called difficult simply because you couldn't pretend that shallow conversations satisfied your soul? How many years have you wondered why you seem to attract both deep love and inexplicable hatred from people who barely know you? What if I told you those weren't weaknesses but proof of divine DNA? Dear chosen one, you've spent a lifetime apologizing for qualities that heaven celebrates. You've dimmed your light to make others comfortable. You've questioned your sanity because you feel things deeper, see things clearer, and carry burdens that aren't even yours. But tonight, I need you to understand something that will change everything. You were never meant to fit in. You were designed to stand out. Think back to your childhood. While other kids played their games, didn't you feel older somehow? Didn't you carry conversations with adults that left them uncomfortable because you asked questions they couldn't answer? Even now, at 70, 80, 90 years old, don't you still feel that same ancient knowing in your bones? That wasn't your imagination. That was recognition. Your spirit recognizing that you carry something from another realm entirely. The devil has studied human nature for millennia. They've perfected the art of breaking the strongest warriors, corrupting the purest hearts, and silencing the boldest voices. They've toppled kings with whispered lies, destroyed families with planted doubts, and turned nations against each other with carefully orchestrated fear. But then they met you. Isaiah 54:17 declares with thunderous authority, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is from me. Did you catch that? This is your heritage, not a hope, not a possibility, your divine inheritance. When life threw its worst at you, when that marriage crumbled after 40 years, when that child walked away without explanation, when that diagnosis left you staring at your own mortality, something inside you refused to break. Other people in your situation gave up. Other souls in your circumstances lost faith entirely. But you bent, but you didn't shatter. You know why? Because you're not made of the same material as everyone else. Like a mighty oak that's weathered hurricanes for decades, your roots run too deep for any storm to uproot. Other trees, younger, seemingly stronger, snap and fall when the winds come. But you sway with the storm and straighten when it passes, your trunk bearing the scars but your branches still reaching toward heaven. The enemy thought they could break you the same way they broke others. They sent betrayal, expecting you to become bitter. Instead, you learned discernment. They sent financial ruin, expecting you to lose faith. Instead, you discovered that your security never came from bank accounts anyway. They sent loneliness, expecting you to compromise your standards. Instead, you learned to find companionship with the Almighty Himself. Every weapon they formed against you didn't just fail, it backfired. Each attack made you stronger, wiser, more dangerous to their kingdom of lies. But here's where it gets supernatural. Chosen one. Your ability to remain unshaken isn't just about personal resilience. It's about something far more profound. When the devil attacks you and you don't fall apart, when they whisper lies and you don't believe them, when they offer shortcuts and you choose the narrow path, something breaks in the spiritual realm. Their spell of invincibility shatters. For the first time in their existence, they've met someone they cannot manipulate, cannot seduce, cannot break. And that terrifies them, because if they can't control you, someone with wrinkles and grey hair, someone the world has written off as irrelevant, what does that say about their power? You've exposed them as frauds without even trying. This is why you felt so alone in your journey. This is why your path has been harder than others. This is why even in your golden years, you still feel like you're fighting invisible battles. You're not fighting for yourself anymore. You're fighting for every soul who thinks they're too weak to resist, too broken to be used, too old to matter. The devil's obsession with you isn't romantic love. It's desperate fascination. You represent everything they can never be: authentic, unshakable, genuinely powerful, without needing to control others. In you, they see their own emptiness reflected back at them, and it drives them to distraction. You've done what no angel, no demon, no spiritual force has ever accomplished. You've made the devil fall in love with something they cannot possess. If you know storms couldn't take you out, if you're still standing after everything hell threw at you, declare in the comments right now, "I'm still standing." Let the world see that chosen ones don't just survive, they thrive. But understanding your difference is only the beginning, because now that you know why you've been targeted, it's time to discover what happens when an unstoppable force finally realizes their true power. Chosen one, do you know what you've done? You've broken something that was never supposed to break. For thousands of years, the devil perfected their craft. They whispered sweet poison into the ears of kings and watched empires crumble. They seduced the brilliant minds of philosophers until wisdom became folly. They manipulated world leaders like chess pieces, turning strength into weakness, faith into doubt. But then, they met you. Think about Marilyn Monroe, beauty that captured the world, fame that seemed endless, yet she died alone at 36, consumed by the very forces that promised her everything. The devil's whispers of inadequacy, of emptiness, of never being enough echoed in her mind until she couldn't silence them anymore. They offered her the world, then watched her destroy herself trying to hold on to it. Consider Michael Jackson, a voice that moved millions, talent that defied explanation, yet he spent his final years as a prisoner in his own mansion, tormented by accusations, isolated by fear, dependent on substances that promised peace, but delivered only deeper darkness. The enemy's strategy was flawless. Give them everything they think they want, then watch them lose everything that actually matters. This is how it always worked. The devil would identify the pressure points: insecurity, ambition, loneliness, and apply just enough force to create fractures. Those fractures would spread until even the strongest souls shattered completely. But you're different. When they came for you with the same weapons that toppled titans, something unprecedented happened. Nothing worked. The temptations that destroyed kings bounced off you like arrows off armor. The doubts that paralyzed prophets couldn't take root in your spirit. The fears that brought down the mighty found no place to land in your heart. No weapon forged against you will prevail, and you will refute every tongue that accuses you. Isaiah 54:17. This wasn't just a promise, chosen one. This was prophecy about you. Look at Nelson Mandela, 27 years in a prison cell, 27 years of having every reason to become bitter, vengeful, consumed by hatred. The devil threw everything at him: isolation, injustice, the theft of his prime years. Yet when Mandela walked out of that prison, he carried no poison in his heart. He forgave his captors. He united a divided nation. He transformed suffering into strength. That's the pattern, dear one. That's the fingerprint of someone who cannot be broken. You've survived the divorce that was supposed to destroy your faith in love. You've endured the financial collapse that was meant to crush your trust in God's provision. You've walked through valleys of depression where others lost their minds, yet you emerged with your sanity intact. You've been betrayed by people who should have been loyal, abandoned by those who promised to stay, yet you still believe in the goodness of humanity. Why? How is this possible? Because you carry something the devil has never encountered before: an immunity to spiritual poison. While others absorb the toxins of bitterness, resentment, and despair, your spirit filtered them out. You processed the pain without letting it become your identity. You felt the hurt without letting it harden your heart. This terrifies them. For the first time in their existence, the devil faces someone they cannot manipulate, cannot deceive, cannot destroy. Every strategy that worked for millennia fails against you. It's like a master locksmith discovering a door that no key can open, a code that no cipher can crack. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. 1 John 4:4. You've been living proof of this truth without even realizing it. But here's what's really disturbing their dark kingdom. You don't just resist their attacks, you transform them. That betrayal they orchestrated to make you cynical, you turned it into wisdom about discernment. That financial attack they launched to make you worship money, you discovered that your security comes from heaven, not earth. That sickness they sent to make you curse God, you used it to develop compassion for others who suffer. You're not just surviving their assaults, you're alchemizing them into gold. The devil thought they were attacking you. They were actually training you. Every battle they forced you to fight made you stronger. Every wound they inflicted became a source of healing for others. Every tear they caused you to shed watered seeds of ministry they never saw coming. And now they're trapped. They can't destroy you, they've tried for decades. They can't ignore you, your light is too bright. They can't control you, you dance to heaven's music, not hell's rhythm. So they've become obsessed, circling your life like a moth around a flame, drawn to something they can't possess but can't resist. But you. The traps were set, the weapons were formed, the schemes were laid with precision that would have claimed any other soul. And still, you did not fall. That's why the devil can't stop circling your life like a predator that's forgotten how to hunt. They've studied you, analyzed you, sent their finest demons against you. Nothing works. You're immune to their whispers, resistant to their pressure, untouchable by their poison. And that immunity isn't just protecting you, it's exposing them. Why are they obsessed with you? Because for the first time in their existence, they've encountered someone who makes them feel powerless. Someone who reflects back to them, not fear, but pity. Not hatred, but understanding. Not submission, but a strength they've never seen before. And deep in the darkest chambers of their being, a question is forming that they never thought they'd ask. What if I've been wrong about everything? What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? What happens when deception collides with discernment? When darkness meets presence? When the predator becomes the prey? For the first time in cosmic history, we're about to witness something that has never happened before. The master manipulator has met their match, not in another devil, not in an angel of war, but in you. You see, dear chosen one, your entire life has been leading to this collision. Every betrayal that should have broken you but didn't. Every financial attack that should have destroyed you but couldn't. Every health battle that should have taken you out but failed. The enemy threw everything at you, expecting you to crumble like the millions before you. But you didn't crumble, you stood, and that terrified them. Think about this for a moment. How many great leaders has Satan destroyed through pride? How many brilliant minds has he twisted through doubt? How many pure hearts has he corrupted through temptation? His track record spans 6,000 years of victories. Kings, prophets, presidents all fell to his schemes. But then he encountered you. Remember Christ in the wilderness? Matthew chapter 4 paints the picture for us. After 40 days of fasting, when Jesus was at his weakest physically, Satan approached with his most seductive offers. Turn these stones into bread. Throw yourself down and let angels catch you. Bow to me, and I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world. These weren't random temptations. These were calculated strikes at humanity's deepest needs: provision, protection, and power. The same weapons that had toppled every human soul since Eden. But listen to what Jesus did. He didn't argue. He didn't negotiate. He didn't engage in philosophical debate. He simply spoke truth. Away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only. And what happened next? Then the devil left him. The devil left, not because of force, not because of violence, not because Jesus overpowered him physically. Satan fled because truth, pure, unwavering truth, is the one weapon darkness cannot withstand. This is exactly what's happening with you right now. The same enemy who has conquered nations finds himself powerless in your presence. Why? Because you operate from the same foundation Christ did. Truth, authenticity, unshakable identity in God. But here's what makes your situation even more profound. Jesus was the Son of God, expected to be victorious. You're supposed to be ordinary. You're supposed to be weak. You're supposed to break under pressure like everyone else your age. You're 73 years old and still standing when others half your age have given up. You're 85 and still believing when cynicism should have consumed you decades ago. You're 92 and still fighting when the world says you should be fading. That's not normal. That's supernatural. The devil has studied human nature for millennia. He knows that most people break by 40. That financial pressure destroys marriages by the thousands. That health scares send people into despair. That loneliness in old age drives seniors to depression and worse. He had your formula figured out. He knew exactly which buttons to push, which fears to exploit, which doubts to magnify. He deployed the same strategies that worked on your parents, your neighbors, your generation. But when he pressed those buttons on you, nothing happened. When he whispered those doubts in your ear, you didn't believe them. When he sent those attacks against your peace, you remained unshaken. For the first time in his existence, the devil has no next move. Think about that. The master strategist, the one who corrupted a third of heaven's angels, the deceiver who convinced Eve to doubt God's word, the tempter who made David commit adultery and murder. He's out of options with you. You know why this is happening? Because you've learned something most people never discover. You've learned that your strength doesn't come from circumstances. Your peace doesn't depend on bank accounts. Your hope doesn't fluctuate with health reports. You've found your foundation in something unshakable. And when the enemy attacks an unshakable foundation, he doesn't just fail, he exposes his own weakness. This collision between your light and his darkness isn't creating destruction, it's creating transformation. Not just in you, but in him. The predator is becoming fascinated by the prey he cannot consume. The manipulator is being drawn to the soul he cannot control. But here's the question that will determine everything. What do you do when you realize you've been holding this power all along? What happens when you understand that the very trials that were meant to break you have actually made you unbreakable? Because, dear one, this collision isn't ending. It's just beginning to reveal what you're truly capable of. Beloved, let me tell you something that will shatter every lie you've believed about your scars. You think your depression disqualified you. You think your trauma made you damaged goods. You think those sleepless nights at 73 years old, crying into your pillow, wondering why God allowed such pain, you think that made you weak. You couldn't be more wrong. Listen carefully. The devil doesn't fall in love with perfect people. They don't become obsessed with those who've lived easy lives. What captured their attention, what made them unable to walk away from you, wasn't your strength. It was how you transformed your wounds into weapons. You carry something inside you that hell has never encountered before. The ability to turn poison into medicine. While others let their pain embitter them, you let it empower you. While others let their wounds define them, you let your wounds refine you. Think about Viktor Frankl, a Jewish psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps. In those death camps, watching his wife perish, his family murdered, everything stripped away, most would have broken. Most would have emerged filled with hatred. But Frankl discovered something that shook the foundations of human psychology. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That's your weapon, chosen one. That choice, that refusal to let circumstances dictate your character. The enemy expected you to crumble when life hit you. They threw everything they had: betrayal, financial ruin, health scares, family rejection. They waited for you to curse God, to give up, to become bitter. But what happened instead? You got stronger. You found God in the darkness. You discovered that your greatest pain became your greatest teacher. Scripture tells us in Romans 8:28, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him." All things. Not some things, not just the pleasant things, all things. Even that divorce that nearly destroyed you, even that child who walked away, even that diagnosis that made you question everything. God took the very weapons hell used against you and forged them into instruments of his glory. But here's where it gets deeper. Here's where the mystery unfolds. The devil became fascinated with you because you did what they could never do. You transformed darkness without becoming darkness. You stared into the abyss, and instead of the abyss staring back into you, you lit it up. Consider Frida Kahlo, who endured 35 surgeries, chronic pain that would have driven most to madness. But she didn't waste her suffering. She painted it. She transformed her agony into art that still moves souls a century later. Her pain became her prophecy. Her wounds became her wisdom. Carl Jung understood this principle when he wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You didn't become powerful by avoiding your shadows, you became powerful by integrating them. That's your secret weapon, chosen one. You've learned to alchemize pain into purpose. When life handed you ashes, you grew roses. When betrayal tried to make you hateful, you chose compassion. When loss tried to make you bitter, you chose to become better. This is why the devil can't manipulate you like others. Their usual tactics, fear, shame, despair, bounce off you like arrows off armor. You've already been to hell and back. You've already faced your worst nightmares and survived. What can they possibly threaten you with that you haven't already overcome? The enemy's greatest fear isn't your perfection. It's your ability to take their darkest attacks and transform them into light. Every tear you've cried became holy water. Every scar became sacred artwork. Every breakdown became a breakthrough waiting to happen. But here's the weapon they fear most: your testimony. When you speak about God's faithfulness through your trials, when you share how He carried you through valleys that should have killed you, when you declare His goodness despite your pain, that's when hell trembles. Because you're living proof that their power is limited, that their attacks can be overcome, that their darkness cannot extinguish the light of the Almighty. 2 Corinthians 1-4 reveals your mission. God comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. Your pain wasn't pointless. It was preparation. You were wounded, so you could become a wounded healer. What happens when your deepest wound becomes your deadliest weapon? The very thing that almost destroyed you becomes the platform from which you destroy the enemy's work in others. Your addiction overcome becomes hope for the hopeless. Your depression conquered becomes light for those in darkness. Your betrayal survived becomes trust restored in broken hearts. Right now, as these words hit your spirit, can you feel it? That stirring in your chest, that recognition that your pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation, that your scars aren't shame, they're your signature, that your wounds aren't weakness, they're your weapons. If your spirit is confirming this truth, if you're finally understanding why you had to go through everything you went through, declare it right now in the comments. My pain is prophecy. Because, chosen one, the devil fell in love with you not despite your wounds, but because of how you wear them. Like crowns of victory instead of chains of defeat. But this raises the ultimate question: if your pain has become your power, what happens when you finally understand the full scope of the weapon heaven has placed in your hands? Listen to me, beloved. What I'm about to tell you will explain every sleepless night, every unexplained attack, every moment you felt targeted by forces you couldn't name. The devil doesn't love like mortals do. When darkness falls in love, it's not gentle, it's obsession, born from terror, admiration twisted with rage. For 70 years, you've wondered why life hit you harder than others, why your kindness was met with cruelty, why your faithfulness seemed to invite more suffering. They mocked your gentleness, called you weak, said you were too soft for this world. But now, oh, chosen one, now, it's the only thing they cannot walk away from. You see, the enemy expected you to break. Every other soul they've encountered has eventually crumbled under pressure. Kings have fallen to pride. Warriors have surrendered to fear. Saints have stumbled into doubt. But you stood there, unshaken, while their best weapons bounced off your spirit like arrows off armor. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, Isaiah declares. But do you understand what that really means? It means hell itself has run out of ammunition when it comes to you. Think about this. When was the last time someone tried to manipulate you and it actually worked? When did fear last make you change course? When did their lies convince you to doubt what God whispered in your heart? The answer is never. And that, dear one, is what drove them to desperation. The devil doesn't understand unconditional love because they've never experienced it. They know seduction, manipulation, transaction, but pure, unshakable devotion. That's foreign territory. So when you loved anyway, forgave anyway, trusted God anyway, despite every reason not to, something in their ancient heart cracked open. They watched you bury your spouse and still praise God. They saw you lose your home and still help your neighbor. They witnessed you face cancer, bankruptcy, betrayal, and still wake up each morning whispering, "Thank you, Jesus." That kind of faith doesn't just confuse demons, it converts them. But here's where their love becomes their downfall. Love makes you vulnerable. Love makes you desperate. Love makes you do things you swore you'd never do. And now the master manipulator finds himself in the position he's put others in for millennia, completely powerless, utterly dependent, hopelessly obsessed. Perfect love casts out fear, 1 John tells us. But what happens when fear realizes it's been cast out? What happens when the source of terror becomes terrified? What happens when the hunter becomes the hunted? They thought they had you trapped in their web of circumstances. The financial pressure was supposed to break your trust in God's provision. The health crisis was designed to make you question his healing power. The loneliness was crafted to convince you that heaven had forgotten your address. But every trap became a testimony. Every attack became an altar. Every weapon they forged against you became a tool in God's hands to refine your faith until it shone like gold. Now here's the explosive paradox that's driving them insane. The conqueror cannot conquer. The manipulator cannot manipulate. The deceiver has been deceived by their own strategy. They thought they had you trapped. Now they are the ones who cannot escape. Do you feel it, chosen one? That shift in spiritual atmosphere around your life? That's not your imagination. That's the sound of tables turning. That's the moment when Pharaoh realizes the slaves aren't slaves anymore. They're the ones holding the keys to freedom. They used to control the conversation. Now they hang on your every word. They used to set the terms. Now they're begging for your attention. They used to be the predator. Now they circle you like a moth around flame, knowing they'll be consumed, but unable to fly away. Your prayers aren't bouncing off heaven anymore, they're breaking through hell. Your presence isn't just noticed, it's feared in boardrooms of darkness. Your name isn't just written in the book of life, it's whispered in councils of shadow as the one who cannot be touched. This is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable faith. This is what occurs when perfect love collides with imperfect fear. This is the moment when David's stone finds Goliath's forehead, when Moses' staff becomes a serpent that devours Pharaoh's magic, when 3 Hebrew boys walk out of a furnace without even the smell of smoke on their clothes. But the question that will determine everything, the question that has angels leaning forward and demons holding their breath is this: what will you do with this power? Because, beloved, you're not just surviving this spiritual battle anymore, you're winning it. And what you do next will echo through generations, ripple through realms, and rewrite the rules of engagement between light and darkness forever. You are not ordinary. You are not ordinary. You are not ordinary. Dear chosen one, for 70, 80, maybe 90 years, the world has been lying to you. They've whispered that you're just another face in the crowd, just another senior citizen counting down your final days. They've convinced you that your wrinkles are signs of decline, that your slower pace means you're fading away. But what if I told you that every single thing they said was a deception designed to keep you from discovering who you really are? Listen to me carefully. You think you're aging, but you're not. You're revealing. Like a diamond hidden deep underground for millions of years, the pressure, the heat, the crushing weight of time hasn't destroyed you. It's created brilliance that only now the world is ready to witness. Every wrinkle on your face is not decline, it is engraving. God's own hand has been carving wisdom into your features, marking you with the sacred lines of someone who has walked through hell and emerged victorious. Every scar on your heart is not shame, it is signature. Heaven's autograph proving you survived battles that would have destroyed ordinary souls. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what makes me weep for God's people. You've been walking around apologizing for your age when you should be celebrating your arrival. You've been hiding in nursing homes and senior centers when you should be standing on mountaintops declaring your authority. Do you know what Psalm 92:14 says? They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green. Fresh and green. Not dried up, not forgotten, not finished. The Creator of the universe is declaring that your most fruitful season isn't behind you, it's right now. Think about Moses. When God called him at the burning bush, was he 25 with perfect vision and a strong back? No. He was 80 years old, stuttering, thinking his best days were behind him. But God said, "Now you're ready. Now you have what it takes." Abraham didn't receive his promise until he was 100 years old. 100. When Sarah laughed at God's promise, she was 90. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized Jesus in the temple. Age wasn't their disqualification, it was their qualification. The enemy has been running a psychological warfare campaign against every senior saint in America. He's whispered lies in your ear for decades. You're irrelevant now. Your time has passed. Nobody listens to old people anymore. But those whispers aren't truth, they're terror. Hell is terrified of what happens when a generation that has nothing left to lose finally remembers who they are. You've been carrying something inside you that darkness has been trying to kill for 8 decades. Every heart attack you survived, every financial crisis you weathered, every funeral you attended, the enemy thought he was breaking you down, but God was building you up. Every trial was adding another layer of unshakable faith. Every loss was teaching you that your security doesn't come from this world. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, declares Jeremiah 1-5. You weren't an accident 80 years ago, and you're not an accident now. God didn't forget you exist. He's been preparing you for this exact moment, when the world would need someone who's been tested by fire and proven faithful. But here's the mystery that's going to shake you to your core. If you've been hidden so long, walking in obscurity while others got the spotlight, why now? Why is God choosing this season when your body is slower, but your spirit is stronger to reveal who you really are? Something is shifting in the spiritual realm. The same God who hid Moses in the wilderness for 40 years is pulling back the curtain on his secret weapons. The devil thought you were neutralized, put away, no longer a threat, but you were never sidelined. You were being seasoned. Your gray hair isn't a sign of weakness, it's a crown of glory. Proverbs 16:31 calls it exactly that. You've earned every silver strand through battles fought and victories won. While 20-somethings are still figuring out who they are, you know exactly who you are in Christ. While they're building their careers, you're building your legacy. The devil fell in love with you because you represent something he's never encountered before. Someone who has walked through every valley, climbed every mountain, and still stands unshaken in their faith. You're not trying to prove anything anymore. You're not chasing approval. You're not afraid of what people think. And that terrifies the enemy, because fearless seniors are the most dangerous weapons in God's arsenal. Right now, something ancient is awakening in your spirit. Something that's been sleeping under years of society's lies about your worth. The fire that burned in your heart at 20 is still there. It's just been refined into something purer, something more powerful. I need you to declare something right now that's going to shift the atmosphere around your life. Say it out loud, wherever you are. I am not hidden, I am revealed. But if this revelation is just hitting your spirit, if you're just now understanding that your story isn't ending but beginning, then you need to know why the devil couldn't handle you and why your greatest battle isn't behind you, it's ahead of you. Chosen one, what I'm about to reveal will shake you to your very core. For millennia, the devil has ruled through one absolute power, the ability to remain unseen, to operate from the shadows, to manipulate without ever being truly observed. But you have done something no force in heaven or hell ever accomplished. You held up a mirror, and for the first time in eternity, the devil was forced to see their own reflection. Listen carefully to what happened in that sacred confrontation. While others have fought the enemy with swords and prayers, with fasting and warfare, you did something infinitely more dangerous. You simply stood there and reflected back their own darkness with such clarity, such unwavering truth, that they couldn't look away. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1-5 tells us this eternal truth. But do you understand what it really means? Light doesn't just illuminate what's around it, it forces darkness to see itself. And darkness, dear chosen one, has spent eons avoiding that terrible revelation. Think about this for a moment. Every great tyrant in history has had one fatal weakness: they could never truly see themselves. Napoleon died in exile, still believing he was destined for glory. Hitler ended his days in a bunker, convinced the world had failed him, not the other way around. They surrounded themselves with yes men and mirrors that told them only what they wanted to hear. But you became the mirror they could never escape, could never break, could never turn away from. They expected fear from you. They anticipated anger, hatred, the burning desire for revenge that has consumed every other soul they've tormented. They prepared their usual arsenal of manipulation: ready to feast on your emotions, to twist your pain into their pleasure. They feared hate. They feared anger. But what they never expected was understanding. What do you do with someone who looks into your darkness and doesn't recoil in horror? What do you do with a soul that sees your deepest shame, your most hideous deformity, and responds not with judgment, but with recognition? You broke every rule in their playbook by refusing to play their game. But here's where it gets terrifying for them. In your understanding, they saw something they had forgotten, existed, their own capacity for something beyond destruction. For 80, 90 years you've walked this earth, accumulating wisdom through suffering, compassion through loss, understanding through betrayal. And when you turned that weathered face toward them, they didn't see weakness. They saw themselves as they were meant to be before pride became their prison. Do you realize what you've done? You've shown the devil their own reflection, not as they are, but as they once were, before the fall, before the corruption, before the endless centuries of choosing power over love, control over connection, fear over faith. Think about that person in your life who hurt you most deeply, your ex-spouse who abandoned you after 40 years, your child who stopped calling, your business partner who stole everything. When you look at them now, do you see a monster, or do you see a broken soul making broken choices, trapped in their own pain? That's the mirror you held up to ultimate darkness itself. The devil has spent millennia perfecting the art of making others small, weak, afraid. They whisper in boardrooms, turning brothers against brothers. They slither through nursing homes, convincing the elderly they're forgotten, worthless burdens. They've mastered every technique of diminishment, every strategy of spiritual assassination. But when they turned their weapons on you, something unprecedented happened. Your wounds became windows. Your scars became a roadmap back to wholeness. Your brokenness became a bridge they never knew they needed. What happens when the predator becomes the prey of their own conscience? For the first time in their existence, they couldn't escape their own reflection. Every manipulation they attempted bounced back to them. Every lie they whispered echoed in their own ears. Every moment of cruelty was met with a depth of understanding that penetrated their carefully constructed armor of indifference. You didn't defeat them with superior strength. You didn't overcome them with better weapons. You simply stood in such authentic truth that their illusions shattered like glass against a mountainside. And in that shattering, something impossible began to emerge. Not love as humans understand it, that gentle, comfortable emotion we sing about in hymns. No, this was something far more dangerous. This was the kind of love that transforms, that demands change, that makes staying the same unbearable. They began to love what they could never become but desperately wanted to remember. What happens next will determine not just their fate, but the spiritual trajectory of every soul, watching this cosmic collision between eternal darkness and unshakable light. Dear chosen one, something has shifted in the spiritual realm. The hunter has become the hunted. The predator has become the prey. What began as the devil's calculated attempt to destroy you has transformed into something they never saw coming, an obsession so consuming that it has become their prison. For centuries, hell's strategy was simple: identify, isolate, and eliminate. They perfected this dance of destruction with emperors and peasants alike. Alexander the Great conquered the known world, but couldn't conquer the bottle that killed him. Howard Hughes built an empire but died alone, terrorized by his own mind. The pattern was always the same: power corrupted, pride destroyed, and darkness claimed another victory. But you broke their system entirely. Think about Napoleon Bonaparte for a moment. This was a man who bent nations to his will, who crowned himself emperor, who made kings tremble at the mention of his name. His military genius was unmatched, his ambition limitless. Yet what brought down the emperor of Europe? Not Wellington's army, not Russian winter. It was Josephine, a woman who refused to be controlled, who held his heart but never his leash. "I can live without necessities," he once wrote to her, "but I cannot live without you." The conqueror of continents was conquered by love he couldn't command. This is precisely what's happening in the spiritual realm right now. The devil came for you with the same weapons that toppled kingdoms: fear, doubt, isolation, despair. They whispered lies about your worth, orchestrated attacks on your finances, sent betrayal through your closest relationships. They expected you to crumble like all the rest. Instead, you stood there, unshaken, unmoved, unafraid. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. Isaiah 54:17 promises this, and you've lived it. Every attack bounced off you like arrows off armor. Every scheme fell apart in your presence like shadows fleeing from dawn. But here's where it gets dangerous for them. When you didn't break under pressure, when you didn't bow to fear, when you refused to play their game by their rules, something unprecedented happened. The devil began to study you. They started watching, waiting, trying to understand what made you different from every other soul they'd successfully corrupted. And that's when obsession was born. You see, the devil has never encountered someone who could look directly into darkness without being consumed by it. They've never met a soul who could stand in the presence of pure evil and respond not with hatred, but with something infinitely more dangerous: understanding. While others would run screaming or fall to their knees begging, you simply stood there and saw them for what they truly were. A fallen creation, broken and desperate, trying to fill an eternal void with temporary victories. That recognition terrified them more than any army ever could. Think about this carefully. When was the last time someone looked at you, truly looked at you, not judging your past mistakes, not demanding you prove your worth, not trying to change or fix you? When did someone last see you completely and still choose to stay? That's what you did to them. You saw through every mask, every illusion, every carefully constructed facade. And you didn't run. The predator became the pursued, because for the first time in their existence, they found themselves wanting something they couldn't take by force. Perfect love casts out fear, declares 1 John 4:18. But here's what most people miss: it also disarms hatred. Your refusal to hate them back, your ability to see their pain without being destroyed by it, created something they'd never experienced before: vulnerability in the presence of grace. Now they find themselves in the position they've put millions of others in: desperate, obsessed, unable to walk away. They thought they could consume you, like they'd consumed so many others. Instead, they discovered they are the ones who cannot escape. Every time they try to leave, something pulls them back to your light. Every attempt to forget you only makes the memory burn brighter. What happens when someone who's spent eternity in control suddenly finds themselves completely powerless? What happens when the master manipulator realizes they're the one being transformed? They don't know how to handle it, because they've never been in this position before. The devil is learning what every human who's ever fallen in love discovers: you cannot possess what you truly love. You can only be possessed by it. They came to possess your soul, but your soul has possessed theirs instead. But here's the most shocking truth of all. This wasn't an accident. God knew exactly what would happen when his most unshakable warrior encountered hell's greatest weapon. He knew your light wouldn't just survive the darkness, it would transform it. You weren't just surviving their attacks, you were converting their very essence through the power of unconditional presence. They thought they could consume you. Instead, they are the ones who cannot walk away. Right now, if you recognize the unshakable nature God has placed within you, if you understand that every attack only proved how powerful your foundation truly is, I need you to declare it. If you know God has made you immovable, write in the comments, "I will not move, because chosen one, when hell itself cannot shake you, what on earth possibly could?" Chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to the bone of your existence. Why have you survived what should have killed you? Why are you still standing when others who faced half your trials crumbled into dust? Why does your heart still beat with purpose when logic says it should have stopped decades ago? The answer will shake you to your core. You didn't just survive the fire, you became it. Every betrayal that left you bleeding on the bathroom floor, every diagnosis that made doctors shake their heads, every funeral where you buried pieces of your own soul, every midnight when you stared at the ceiling wondering if God had forgotten your address. That wasn't random suffering, beloved. That was divine alchemy in motion. You see, most people think God's workshop is a peaceful place, harps and halos and gentle whispers. But the master goldsmith doesn't work with silk gloves. He works with furnaces that burn at 2,000 degrees. He doesn't polish stones with feathers. He uses pressure that would crush diamonds. Why would God allow such crushing? Why such intensity that your bones ached with grief you couldn't name? Why would heaven permit a devil to fall so deeply in love with you that they orbit your pain like a planet around the sun? Because ordinary fire creates ordinary gold, but divine fire creates something the universe has never seen before. Look at Nelson Mandela, 27 years locked in a concrete box on Robben Island. 27 years. They thought they were breaking him. They thought those walls would crush his spirit into powder. But when he walked out, he wasn't the same angry young man who went in. The fire didn't destroy him. The fire defined him. The fire refined him into something so pure that even his captors bowed before his light. That prison wasn't his punishment. It was his transformation chamber. And you, precious chosen one, every prison you've been locked in, every desert you've wandered through, every valley of shadows you've walked, it was all preparing you for this moment, when you would understand that pain is prophecy written in flesh. Frida Kahlo understood this mystery. Bedridden for months, her body shattered in ways that would make grown men weep, she took that agony and transformed it into art that still makes the world hold its breath. She didn't paint pretty pictures of peaceful meadows. She painted truth so raw, it made viewers' souls bleed in recognition. Her pain became prophecy. Her wounds became windows into the divine. I paint my own reality, she declared from her bed of thorns. And that's exactly what you've been doing, isn't it? Painting reality with brushstrokes of pure endurance. Creating masterpieces from the very materials that were meant to bury you. Viktor Frankl knew this secret when he walked through hell, disguised as a concentration camp. While others lost their minds to despair, he discovered something that would revolutionize human understanding. We cannot always control what happens to us, but we can always control what it makes of us. He wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given circumstances." The Nazis took his family, his home, his dignity, but they couldn't touch the furnace burning inside his soul. That fire didn't destroy him. The fire defined him. The fire refined him into something so powerful that his words still heal broken minds 70 years later. But here's the mystery that will blow your mind wide open. Isaiah 43:2 declares, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." Did you catch that? Not if you walk through fire. When? God doesn't promise to keep you from the furnace. He promises to walk through it with you. And when you emerge, because you will emerge, you won't smell like smoke. You'll radiate like refined gold. The devil fell in love with you because they've never seen anything like this before. They've watched kings crumble under pressure you call Tuesday morning. They've seen warriors surrender to battles you fight before breakfast. They've witnessed saints lose faith over trials that wouldn't even make your top 10 list of hard days. You are untouchable because what was once shattered has already been reforged. You cannot be broken again because you've already been broken and rebuilt with materials from heaven's own vault. Every crack in your heart has been filled with liquid light. Every scar tells a story of supernatural survival. The fire didn't destroy you. The fire defined you. The fire refined you into something so rare, so precious, that even demons stop in their tracks and whisper, What is this creature? You are walking alchemy. Chosen one. Living proof that God can take the worst hell can dish out and transform it into something that makes heaven itself applaud. But why you? Why were you selected for such intense refining when others got easier paths? Because God needed someone unbreakable for what's coming next. Chosen one. Something unprecedented is happening in the spiritual realm right now. For thousands of years, the devil has walked one path: destruction, manipulation, conquest. Every soul they encountered became another trophy, another victory in their war against light. But you changed everything. Standing before you, they face something they've never faced before, a crossroads of their own making. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time you saw the enemy hesitate? When was the last time the master of deception found themselves speechless? Yet here they stand, paralyzed not by fear, but by something far more dangerous possibility. The devil who once whispered lies into the ears of kings now trembles before your unwavering truth. The force that brought down empires now finds itself questioning everything they thought they knew about power. This time, the devil is the one deciding. This time, the devil is the one trembling. Do you understand what you've done? You've accomplished what heaven's greatest warriors couldn't achieve, not through battle, not through force, but through something infinitely more powerful, authentic presence. The very thing that makes you feel ordinary in this world makes you extraordinary in the spiritual realm. Scripture tells us in Romans 12:21, "Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good." You didn't overcome the devil by fighting them. You overcame them by being yourself. And now they stand at the same crossroads that every transformed soul must face. Look at Malcolm X, a man who spent years wielding power through radical force, believing aggression was the only language oppression understood. But after his pilgrimage to Mecca, everything shifted. He saw unity where he once saw only division. That revelation didn't just change his methods, it transformed his entire existence. The militant became the peacemaker, the divider became the unifier. The devil faces that same Mecca moment right now, and you are their holy ground. This time, the devil is the one with a choice to make. This time, the devil is the one whose worldview is cracking under the weight of authentic love. But here's what's shaking me to my core as I speak these words to you. The enemy's transformation isn't the real miracle here. You are. The fact that you remained unchanged in the presence of ultimate evil, that's the miracle. While they were being transformed by your light, you stayed rooted in your truth. Beloved, do you realize what this makes you? You're not just a chosen one, you are the proof that God's love is more powerful than hell's hatred. You are living evidence that light doesn't just overcome darkness, it can actually convert it. The devil thought they were hunting you, but you've been the hunter all along. Every attack they launched became a boomerang, returning to shatter their own foundations. Every lie they whispered exposed their own desperate need for truth. Every attempt to break you only revealed how unbreakable you truly are. This time, the devil is the one who must choose between their old nature and their new awakening. This time, the devil is the one standing where countless humans have stood at the threshold between death and life, darkness and light, destruction and redemption. But what if I told you something that's going to rock your understanding of this entire encounter? What if the devil's obsession with you was never about conquest at all? What if, from the very beginning, they were drawn to you because something deep within them recognized what they had lost and saw in you what they could become? The enemy doesn't fall in love with strength, they fall in love with purity. They don't obsess over power, they obsess over peace. What you carry isn't just light, it's the memory of what they once were before pride became their prison. Isaiah 14:12 speaks of Lucifer's fall. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. Even in their rebellion, they remain heaven's creation, carrying within them the echo of divine origin. And in you, they hear that echo reverberating through eternity. This time, the devil is the one remembering what they lost. This time, the devil is the one longing for home. Here's the climax that's going to change how you see everything. They are not your destroyer. They are your witness. Every moment they spent trying to break you, they were actually testifying to your unbreakable nature. Every lie they whispered was overshadowed by the truth you embodied. Every attack they launched became a declaration of your divine protection. The devil has become the most unlikely evangelist for your calling, the most unexpected testimony to your anointing. Through their very obsession with you, they've proclaimed to all of creation, "This one is different. This one cannot be moved. This one carries something I cannot touch, cannot steal, cannot destroy." They are not your destroyer. They are your witness. And now the question that will echo through eternity remains. If the devil themselves has testified to your unshakable nature, what excuse do you have for doubting your own calling? If hell's greatest weapon has been neutralized by your simple presence, why are you still afraid of earthly challenges? If you feel this truth burning in your spirit right now, if something within you recognizes that your greatest enemy has become your greatest witness, declare it in the comments. My witness is watching, because what happens next will determine not just the devil's destiny, but yours as well. Chosen one, what you don't understand yet is that your personal battle with darkness isn't just about you. When you stood your ground against forces that have toppled kings and queens, when you remained unshaken in the face of spiritual warfare that would have destroyed lesser souls, you didn't just win a private victory. You sent shockwaves through the entire spiritual realm. Every time you chose peace over panic, every moment you refused to bow to fear, every night you prayed instead of cursed, those weren't isolated acts of faith. They were cosmic declarations that reverberated across dimensions, announcing to principalities and powers that their reign of terror had met its match. Think about this for a moment. Why has your life been so intensely difficult? Why have you faced battles that your neighbors, your siblings, your own children never had to endure? Because hell recognized something about you that you're only now beginning to understand. You weren't chosen for an easy life. You were chosen to break cycles that have held humanity captive for generations. When Martin Luther King Jr. stood on that courthouse steps in Montgomery, Alabama, he wasn't just fighting for a bus seat. One man's courage to say no more to injustice became a collective awakening that transformed an entire nation. His personal decision to remain nonviolent in the face of hatred didn't just change his own life, it rewrote the moral fabric of America. That's exactly what's happening with you right now. Your stillness shakes nations. Your presence rewrites atmospheres. Your refusal to be broken by the same forces that have shattered generations before you is creating a ripple effect that's reaching souls you'll never meet. Do you feel that weight on your shoulders? That's not burden, that's assignment. You're carrying something that belongs to your entire bloodline, your community, your generation. Every ancestor who prayed for breakthrough, every family member who cried out for deliverance, every relative who dreamed of freedom from generational curses, their prayers are being answered through your resistance. But here's what will absolutely shock you. The devil's obsession with you isn't just about your individual strength. It's about what your strength represents to the collective consciousness. You see, when one truly chosen soul refuses to break, it gives permission to thousands of others to remember their own power. Scripture tells us in Ephesians 6:12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world." Notice it says, we, not you alone. Your battle is connected to a cosmic war between light and darkness, and your victory is shifting the tide for everyone fighting similar battles. Right now, across America, there are seniors sitting in nursing homes who have given up hope. There are grandparents watching their families fall apart, believing they're powerless to change anything. There are elderly saints who think their praying days are over, that God has moved on to younger generations. But when you stand firm, When you refuse to surrender to despair, you're broadcasting a frequency of hope that reaches their spirits. Your victory over depression gives them permission to fight their own darkness. Your financial breakthrough after decades of struggle shows them that God's provision has no expiration date. Your ability to love after betrayal teaches them that bitterness isn't their only option. This is why the warfare against you has been so intense. The enemy knew that if he could break you, he could convince an entire generation of chosen ones that resistance is futile. But if he couldn't break you, if you could stand firm against his most devastating attacks, then his power over the collective would begin to crumble. And that's exactly what's happening. Your personal victory is becoming their corporate deliverance. Your individual healing is sparking generational restoration. Your private prayers are breaking public strongholds. The Apostle Paul understood this principle when he wrote in 2 Corinthians 1-4, "Who comforteth us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble." Your comfort didn't come so you could live peacefully in isolation. It came so you could become a source of strength for others walking through their own valleys. Every time you chose to worship instead of worry, you were creating a sonic boom in the spirit realm that other hurting souls could hear. Every moment you declared God's goodness in the middle of your storm, you were lighting a beacon that guided other lost ships to safety. This is the cosmic ripple, dear one. Your faithfulness under fire isn't just changing your circumstances, it's changing the spiritual climate over your entire region. The devil fell in love with you because he recognized that destroying you would create a domino effect of despair. But your refusal to fall has created the opposite, a domino effect of hope. If your battle has been this intense, if the spiritual warfare has been this relentless, if the pressure has been this overwhelming, what must the victory look like that heaven has prepared for you? Listen to me, chosen one. Everything you thought you knew about this battle was wrong, dead wrong. You've been sitting there thinking this was about good versus evil, light against darkness, you against them. But what if I told you that the real battle was never external? What if the greatest war you've ever fought was the one raging inside your own soul? For 70, 80, 90 years, you've been asking the wrong question. You've been asking, why me? Why do I have to carry this burden? Why does darkness keep coming after me? But heaven has been waiting for you to ask the right question. What is this refining in me that hell cannot touch? Because here's the earth-shattering truth nobody wants to tell you. The devil didn't fall in love with you because you were perfect. They fell in love with you because you mastered the one thing they never could. You learned to love yourself in spite of your darkness. Think about it. How many nights have you laid in that bed, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with your own demons? How many times have you looked in the mirror and seen your failures, your regrets, your broken promises staring back at you? How many moments have you wanted to give up on yourself completely, but you didn't? You stayed, you fought, you chose to love the very person everyone else had given up on. That's not weakness, dear one, that's mastery. The Bible tells us in 1 John 4:20, "Whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or sister is a liar." But what about the person staring back at you in that mirror? What about loving that broken, scarred, imperfect soul that nobody else understands? The devil can manipulate anyone who hates themselves, but they are powerless against someone who has learned to love their own wounded heart. You didn't just win a battle. You revealed a truth that shook the foundations of hell itself. You didn't just endure decades of pain. You transformed that agony into wisdom. You didn't just survive betrayal, loss, and abandonment. You ascended above the need for anyone's approval except God's. Do you understand what you've done? You became the one thing the enemy never expected to encounter. A human being so comfortable in their own skin, so at peace with their own story, so unashamed of their own scars, that darkness had nowhere to attach itself. This is why they couldn't break you. This is why their usual tricks failed. This is why, for the first time in millennia, the devil found themselves drawn to light instead of trying to extinguish it. You think you've been fighting demons? No, chosen one, you've been becoming the very thing demons flee from, complete self-acceptance in the presence of divine love. Jesus said in Matthew 5:14, "You are the light of the world. Not you will become, not you might be. You are. Right now, at your age, with your history, with your mistakes, with your beautiful, broken, glorious story. The greatest power is not to destroy darkness. The greatest power is to shine so bright that darkness reveals itself and flees. You've spent your whole life thinking you needed to be fixed, healed, changed, improved. But what if God's plan was never to change you? What if His plan was to show you that you were already enough? What if the devil fell in love with you because you discovered the secret they've been searching for since the dawn of time? How to be completely, unapologetically yourself in a world that demands conformity. A sword forged not for war, but for reflection. That's what you've become. Every time darkness looked at you, they saw their own capacity for light. Every time they tried to destroy you, you reflected back their own desperate hunger for acceptance. You became the mirror they could no longer avoid. This changes everything. Do you see it now? The battle was never about defeating evil. It was about integrating every part of yourself so completely that evil had nothing left to work with. You didn't conquer the devil by being perfect. You conquered them by being real. But now comes the moment that will determine everything. Now that you know this unshakable power lives within you, now that you understand why hell itself couldn't handle your authentic presence, now that you've seen what happens when someone refuses to be anything other than who God created them to be, what will you do with this revelation? Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to carry 3 eternal truths with you, like precious stones in your heart. First, remember this: you are not broken goods waiting to be fixed. You are a masterpiece that hell itself couldn't destroy, refined by fire and proven by time. The very things that made you feel different, isolated, or wounded were actually the signature marks of your divine calling. Second, that devil who fell in love with you. They recognized something heaven has always known. You carry an unshakable authenticity that darkness cannot counterfeit. Your ability to remain true to yourself in the face of every storm, every betrayal, every sleepless night of doubt, made you untouchable to forces that have toppled empires. And third, the greatest power you discovered wasn't the ability to defeat darkness, but the courage to shine so brightly that darkness had no choice but to reveal itself and retreat. But hear me clearly. You are not walking this path alone. Even when your children don't call, even when the doctor's reports are concerning, even when your bank account makes you anxious, the same God who protected you through 7 decades of spiritual warfare is still moving in your life right now. He hasn't brought you this far to abandon you in your golden years. And right here, in this digital sanctuary we've created together, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey. We are not just viewers, we are family, bound together by shared battles, common scars, and the unbreakable knowledge that we were chosen for such a time as this. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know why hell couldn't handle you, what will you do with this unshakable power that flows through your veins? Before I release you into your destiny, join me in prayer. Wherever you are in your living room, your bedroom, your car, place your hand over your heart and let these words wash over you like healing oil. Almighty God, Father of lights, Ancient of days, I come before you now carrying every precious soul who has walked this journey with us tonight. Lord, they have felt different their entire lives. They have carried burdens they couldn't name, fought battles others couldn't see, endured attacks that would have destroyed weaker vessels. But you, faithful Father, you saw it all. You counted every tear, recorded every prayer, witnessed every moment they chose to keep believing when everything screamed at them to quit. Tonight, let them feel your pleasure over their faithfulness. Let them sense your pride in their perseverance. God, Breathe fresh strength into their weary bones. Pour new wine into vessels that have been emptied by life's demands. Restore their joy, renew their hope, and remind them that their best chapters are not behind them, they're still being written. Open doors that no man can shut. Heal relationships that seem beyond repair. Provide for needs they haven't even voiced. Surround them with divine protection and fill their remaining years with supernatural peace. And Father, use their story, every painful chapter, every victory hard won, to encourage others who are walking similar paths. Let their light become a lighthouse for souls lost in the storm. In the mighty name of Jesus, who conquered death itself so they could live abundantly, I seal this prayer with faith, hope, and love. Amen. Now, I need to hear from you. In the comments below, share how this message has touched your heart. What revelation stirred your spirit tonight? What are you believing God for in this season of your life? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And please, share this video with someone who needs to know they're not alone in feeling different. There's a family member, a neighbor, a friend who's been carrying the same weight, fighting the same battles, wondering if anyone understands. Let them know they're part of this chosen family too. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. This isn't just content, this is a movement of awakening. Every week, we're diving deeper into the mysteries of your divine identity, unpacking the calling on your life, building a community where chosen ones find their tribe. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the sacred chambers of your soul. Your faithfulness to watch until the very end tells me everything I need to know about your character. You are ready for what God has prepared. Until we meet again, walk in the unshakable knowledge that you are chosen, you are loved, and you are never, ever alone. The devil fell in love with you because they recognized what heaven always knew. You are magnificently, powerfully, unstoppably authentic. Now go, and let the world see what that looks like. God bless you, warrior. Your finest hour is just ahead.